The webinar will start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon and welcome to the Finance Masterclass Series. And today's webinar will be on how to measure the impact of your financial decisions. First things first, I would like to make sure my voice is audible and you can hear me. If you can hear me clearly and if my voice is audible, please type in yes in the chat box. Hello, Philip. It's good to see you. Thanks for your message. Don is saying yes. Philip is saying sound is great. Good to know. And Rachel is saying yes as well. Awesome. Then let's keep it rolling. Now that we have tested the audio, let me test the video. If you can see this image on your screen, again, please type in yes. From my experience of conducting webinar, most of the participants will say the image is pretty blurry or the video is pretty blurry. If that is the case, it simply means the internet at your end is pretty slow or it has dropped. Just to make sure the video is clear, try to close all the application or devices that might be consuming internet. Thank you, Rachel. It's good to know that you can see the image clearly. Don is saying it is blurry. As I told you, Don, yeah, and then you have also message saying that it will get better. Even Philip is saying it is a bit blurry, but it will get better. As I told you, please make sure you turn off all the other application or devices that might be consuming internet. Now that we have tested the audio and video, let us test our brain. Let us quickly do a warm up. Please add the following three numbers that you can see on your screen and tell me the sum total. What is the sum total of 21 plus 7 plus 16? Is it 43 or 44 or 45? I hope you're not reaching out to your calculator. Dawn says 44. Let me give you a hint. It's an even number. Yippee! You're getting it right. Good to know that I'm talking to participants who can count. That's awesome. Friends, let's get started. Another quick quiz. Please tell me who this person is. I'll give you 4 hints. The first hint, his first 6 businesses failed. I will continue. Currently, he is consultant and industry mentor at RMIT. He teaches business finance at Holmesglen. And he's also a small business consultation panel member at ATO. The third hint, he's neither an accountant nor has he got any financial qualification from a university. The final hint is he has trained over 600 business owners till date, and he has written a book, Fundamentals of Financial Statements. Yes, Philip, you're right. That is me. Yes, Don, even you have got it right. Friends, the reason behind this is, apart from being funny, the intention behind me mentioning all this is, one, the reason I failed in 6 businesses is because of finance mismanagement and finance illiteracy. I was told by then business mentor to educate myself on finance. The second hint, it is pretty much me trying to say, hey, I'm awesome. And the third hint that I have given, where it says I'm not an accountant or a finance or I don't have any financial qualification, is simply because many people have this misconception that finance is beyond their scope of understanding, or they think they need to have some kind of a finance qualification or accounting background to understand business finance. If today I am training people on finance without any accounting or finance background, I can safely say that is not a mandatory to understand the subject finance. Cool. Let's get started. The topic for today's webinar is how to measure the impact of financial decisions. We will be addressing this particular topic in three parts by answering three questions, and that would be the agenda of today's webinar. The first question or the first part of the webinar would be why understand finance? Many people ask me this question. Chinmay, I have got a bookkeeper. We have got an accountant. We have a CFO. We have a finance department. Why should I be bothered about understanding finance? Why should I be bothered about looking at numbers? That would be the first part of the webinar where I will be breaking all those misconceptions, and I'll be telling you why you should be looking at finance and why you should consider yourself as a finance person if you are part of any business. The second part of the webinar would be how financial decisions should not be made. We all know many things in business, but one of the things that we sometimes not something that we don't really understand is what are the things we should not be making in business. I think I can safely say it is easy to make money in business. I repeat, it is easy to make money in business. What's really hard and challenging is to retain that money that we have made in business. And we'll be talking about that area in the second part of this webinar. And the final part of the webinar would be on what to do while making a decision. The key word here is critical. If this is not followed, then chances of business getting into free to ask me any questions by typing in your by typing in the chat box. And in case if my voice is not audible or if I'm too fast or if there is some kind of a technical issue, please let me know as soon as possible. If you are still with me, please type in yes. If you can still hear my voice, if you can still see the screen, please type in yes. Thank you, Philip. Don is saying no, just to make sure. Just kidding. Oh, come on, God, Don. Anyway, let's keep you got me there. You got me there. I have to admit it. Okay, let me continue. I'm sure when you registered for this webinar, you saw this details on the registration page. And I'm sure that subconsciously you were looking at those numbers 21, that is today's date, 1 p.m., that is the time the webinar would be starting. Last month, when I was not well, I went to a doctor. And the first thing the doctor did was checking my pulse and checking my heartbeat. So the doctor was looking for numbers. Recently, we had the federal election in Australia. After counting and recounting, finally the government was elected. And on what basis were they elected? Of course, on the number of votes that they got. We live in the most livable city in the world, Melbourne. I every morning make sure I look at the forecast, and depending on that, I carry an umbrella or a sunscreen. And what do you think I'm looking at? Numbers. Being a civil engineer, I can safely say every engineering branch is based on numbers. Information technology is based on numbers. The world's GDP, when we say a country is a developing country or underdeveloped country or a populated country, we make all these statements based on numbers. The food we eat is again based on numbers. Someone has measured the calories, the vitamins, the carbohydrates, and so on. And based on that, we make the decision. Friends, the point I'm trying to make here is almost every decision we make in our life is directly or indirectly related to numbers, because numbers helps us to be more decisive, numbers helps us to be more accurate, and numbers don't lie. But unfortunately, many people in business, they tend to shy away from numbers because of their own ignorance, because of their own misunderstanding and misconception they would have had on the subject finance. As they shy away from numbers and they avoid reading and understanding finance, unfortunately, they end up making decisions based on assumption. And this in turn leads to business failure. And again, this is not me who is saying this, it is ASIC, Australian Securities and Investment Commission. In every report since 2010, they have reported poor financial control is one of the main reasons businesses have failed. Smart Company interviewed 1,000 Australian owners and they found out inability to manage cost was one of the main reasons businesses failed. All this can be boiled down to finance mismanagement, because finance is the root of how business makes money. Some of you might be thinking, my business is different. My business is unique. Doesn't matter what kind of business you are in, broadly speaking, I can categorize all businesses that are there in this world. Broadly speaking, I can categorize them into three kinds. The first type is business that makes money by manufacturing a product and selling that particular product. I repeat, a business that purchases raw material, converts that raw material into a finished product through a production cycle, and when it manufactures that end product, it sells it and makes money. That is the first category. Second type, business that makes money by offering a service. And the third type are businesses that sell product and offer service to that particular product. As I told you some time back, broadly speaking, all businesses can be categorized into three. Now, I would like to know what which type is your business. Let me start a poll. If you fall into the first category, please select that. If it is if you are a service industry or service business, please tick that particular box. Or if you are in the retail space, which is both product and service, please tick that. Some of you some of you have already started participating. That is good. Great. Looks like most of you are in the second industry, which is service. Now that you're in service industry, even if we had participants from manufacturing industry or retail industry, there can be only four things that can happen in any business. What are the four things? Money comes in, money goes out, money supposed to come in, money supposed to go out. Nothing can happen outside these four financial transactions. It can be a very small micro business or it can be a huge multi-billion dollar organization. There can be only four things that can happen. That is, money comes in, money goes out, money supposed to come in, and money supposed to go out. Business is simple. I repeat, business is simple. We have to always earn more than we spend. But the challenge is, at any given point in time, money comes in and money goes out at different time. The question is, do we know how much money is coming in and how much money is going out at any given point in time? In other words, do we know the pulse of our business? Let me ask you something. Imagine you are driving a car. If you are driving a car and the speedometer of the car is not working, would you prefer to drive fast or would you prefer to drive slow? If you prefer to drive fast, please type fast. If you prefer to drive slow, please type slow. Let me repeat the question. Imagine you're driving a car and the speedometer of the car is not working. Would you prefer to drive fast or would you prefer to drive slow? Philip is saying possibly slow. I'm waiting for a few more participants to reply. Dawn says a bit slower. So is it slower than Philip? Rachel says slow. Thank you for participating there. Friends, doesn't matter if you choose or if you have decided to drive fast or drive slow, the decision that you just made is based on assumption. I repeat, the decision that you just made is based on assumption to drive fast or drive slow. Unfortunately, in business, most of us are driving our business based on assumption. Let me emphasize more on this. Finance is not accounting and accounting is not finance. Even though these two terms are used in the same sentence in most of the conversation we have in business, but finance is not accounting and accounting is not finance. Let us understand the basics and then move forward. Just now we have understood there are only four things that can happen in any business. Money comes in, money goes out, money is supposed to come in, money is supposed to go out. When one of these four things happen, it is called as a financial transaction. When a financial transaction happens in any business, it has to be recorded. I repeat, whenever a financial transaction happens, it has to be recorded in a business, and collection of such records are called accounts. The process is called accounting. Of course, gone are the days when people used to use big fat ledgers and they were manually entering it in one book and it was uh, then written into other book. So gone are those days. Collection of such records is called accounts. The process is called accounting, and we have got sophisticated software these days which does all these books for us. And the person who approves it is called as an accountant. Finance starts when accounting ends. There is one word that is common in accounts, accounting, and accountant, and that word is count. All they do is they count the financial transaction that happens within a business, and they present it in form of financial statements. The decision as a business owner that you are going to make is a financial decision. Finance starts when accounting ends. Think about this. Let me continue. Keith Cunningham, he said, in any sport, you cannot tell who is winning or losing if you do not know how to read a scoreboard. In business, financial reports are scoreboards. The question is, do you know how to read them? Now that I have quoted Keith Cunningham, who talks a bit about sport, let us compare or let us try to understand business better by comparing a business with a sport. Let us say football. Let us take football. If you are playing football and if you are on the ground kicking the ball and there is only one goal and that is to score more goals than your competitor, the first thing that happens whenever you or your opponent is scoring goal is there will be a person who will be scoring it, and he will have a system in place. Whenever you kick the ball, it has been either somehow recorded. The same thing in business. Whenever a financial transaction happens, there is a system in place and it has to be recorded, and that is done most of the time by a bookkeeper. They are keeping the books, they are keeping the score. Once the financial transaction, the score is recorded the way it is supposed to be recorded, then when it comes to football, you have referees. And what is the role of a referee? To make sure the game is played fairly, to make sure the players are following the rules. In other words, they take care of the compliance. In business, that role is pretty much played by an accountant. They make sure the business abides by the rules and regulation set by the ATO and other government bodies. Once the books are maintained or recorded the way it is supposed to be recorded, and the accountant looks at those books and puts a signature and says that, hey, I am a qualified accountant and this business is abiding by the rules and regulation, and the accountant will be presenting you the financial reports. Now, as a business owner, you will end up making a decision. In football, it is all about whether the team is winning or not. In business, it is all about is the business making profit or not. And that is where finance comes into picture. Finance starts when accounting ends. Now, in football, the referee or the person who is scoring cannot enter the field and kick the ball on your behalf. Similarly, in business, the bookkeeper and the accountant cannot come into your business and help you to make decisions every single time. This is the reason you have to educate yourself about numbers, the basic numbers, and know what is happening in the four areas of your financial transaction. If you are still with me, please type in yes. If you have any question at this time, I'm happy to take few questions. Yes, very clear. Good to know. That's a positive sign. So let's keep moving. Now, the second part of the webinar: how financial decisions should not be made. Let me now bring in a case study. Let me give you an example of one of my clients that I recently worked with. And this is one of the best example which I usually use in all my seminars and introductory program, because most of the participants will be able to relate to this particular example. In this part, I'll be asking you a lot of questions. So this will be a very interactive part of the webinar. And I would really appreciate if you could participate by uh, typing in the message. Let us imagine you have started a cafe and you want to come up with a price to sell a coffee. I repeat, you have just started a cafe business and you want to come up with a price. The what price point will you come up with? Would you charge a cup of coffee for less than $3, or anywhere between 3 to 5, or more than 5? If you decide to sell each cup of coffee for less than $3, please type in A. If you decide to sell a cup of coffee between $3 to $5, please type B in the message box. And if you decide to sell a cup of coffee for more than $5, please type C in the message box. Dawn has message saying that depends on my cause. Lots of people seem to make it B. Philip is saying that would depend on the rent, employees, type of raw material. The market is around $4, so I would focus on B. Now I know why you took some time to reply. That's good that you're thinking. There is a common word. Rachel has messaged saying that B being current selling price. There is a common word in some of the messages that I have received, and that common word is depends. First of all, I would appreciate that you have thought about this and you have not just gone about deciding that it would be A or B or C. If you remember, few slides back, I asked you a question. Imagine you're driving a car and the speedometer of the car is not working. Would you prefer to drive fast or would you prefer to drive slow? And you made a decision based on assumption. And I also said, unfortunately, many people in business makes decision based on assumption. When I started business initially 8 years back, and the first six of my businesses failed, one of the main reason for that, which I told you, was finance mismanagement, and it was also because of assumption. And the business mentor at that time said, Chinmay, next time before you assume, try this crazy method called asking. If you do not ask, the answer is always no. And try to gather as much facts as possible. As Don and Philip and even Rachel now, you've mentioned that it depends on what my cost is going to be. But let me tell you what had happened with that particular client of mine. When I was sitting in his cafe and when I asked him, you just sold this cup of coffee for $4.50. How did you come up with the price? And that client of mine said, "Oh, Chinmay, I was bit smart. I went around the neighborhood. I slowly pinched the price list from all my competitors, and I have come up with a competitive price, the current selling price, the market price, which is $4.50. Then I asked him, now that you're charging $4.50, how much profit do you think you are making on each cup of coffee?" And his answer was, ingredients costs him around 50 cents, milk, coffee powder, sugar, all put together, he said it is around 50 cents. Rent was costing him $1. Wages and other overheads, all the bills, he said it was costing him $2. Now, total of all expenses is $3.50. And he said, Chinmay, I should be making profit of $1. Now, there are few words he used which I'm not very comfortable with. One of them is, I should be making $1. Should. I think it is costing me. All these words is based on assumption. And I hate to work on assumption. So what I did was I asked him to give me the scoreboard, the financial report, hoping that all the financial transaction was tracked the way it is supposed to be tracked. Now with the scoreboard that was right in front of me, which he was not looking into when making decision, I asked him a few questions and I came up with facts for 3 months of sales that had happened in that particular cafe. Based on the scorecard that I had received, he was selling each cup of coffee for $4.50. The ingredients costed him 42 cents, not 50 cents, so 8 cents less, which is good in a way. But there was a component that he had not taken into consideration. That was cups and napkins and things that goes along with coffee. And it was costing the business 24 cents, which he had completely overlooked. Rent was actually costing this business $1.17, not $1. When it came to wages and other overheads, he just took the bills like electricity, gas, telephone into consideration, but again, he completely overlooked many other overheads. Now and then, he used to hire part time cleaners, and there were other equipments to which he had not at all considered any cost. Now, coffee machine, you cannot use a coffee machine for 10 or 20 years. It can be used for few years, and it has to be serviced on a regular basis. Now, I'll not get into the technical aspect or details of depreciation and things like that because it will be too complicated. But the point I'm trying to make here is there were many things that was not at all recorded, that was not at all tracked, that was completely overlooked. When I got into the integrity of the ins and outs of the business, I found out the wages and overheads was $2.83. Now, total expense was $4.66. This business was selling cup of coffee for $4.50, but the expense was $4.66 for the last 3 months, which means every time it sold a cup of coffee, it was making minus 16 cents. And why did it happen? Because the owner was too excited with his business idea. He spent too much time in the kitchen. Again, I'm no one to say whether he should spend time in kitchen or somewhere else. The point I'm trying to make here is He ignored or he overlooked the scoreboard and he was playing the game. He was busy kicking the ball, he was busy running around. But my question is, for all the effort that he had put in the business, was he making profit? And let me tell you something else which might really surprise you. And Philip is saying definitely they're making a loss. Let me tell you something else that he hadn't taken into consideration. He was not treating himself as an employee in his business. In the first place, he's not making money within the business as an employee, and on top of that, business is not making profit. Pretty much, he was running a charity. Friends, this is not really surprising for me these days because I have seen hundreds of them in the last few years. But the point I'm trying to make here is please stop making decision based on assumption and try to gather as much facts as possible. Now, I'm also a realistic person and I also think practically. In a real world scenario, it is very hard to gather all the facts. And if we go around trying to gather all the facts, then sometimes the decision that we are going to make would be bit late. Let me emphasize more on what exactly I'm trying to say by gathering facts. People usually make an assumption, but the reality would be entirely different. The gap between assumption and reality will be very high when we initially make a decision for the first time. Over a period of time, after gathering some facts, the distance between the assumption and reality should narrow down, and further, it should narrow down more. If this is not happening in business, then I'm afraid to say that you will be busy kicking the ball, running all over the ground without having an idea whether you're winning or losing. The main intention behind measuring all this, gathering all the facts, is simply because, let me quote the famous management guru Peter Drucker: what gets measured gets managed. What gets measured gets managed. Again, I understand you cannot measure everything to the bottom dollar, but still, to a great extent, try to reduce the gap between reality and assumption so that you fail fast, you fail often, and you fail cheap. Any questions so far? If you are still with me, please say yes. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take a few questions now before we enter the third part of this webinar. All good? Yes, awesome. That's a good sign. So let me continue. The third part: what are the critical things to consider while making a decision? Honestly, my answer, if you ask me in person, I would say I don't know. Now you might be thinking, Chinmay, what do you mean you don't know? How can you say that? You said you're going to teach us, or you call yourself as a financial educator. How can you say that you don't know? Again, if I say certain things, that would be based on assumption. And as I told you, I hate to work on assumption. So it becomes very subjective. First, I have to look at your scoreboard. Even before looking at the scoreboard, I need to understand whether the person who is scoring is doing the right job. And then I can bring in my expertise and tell what are the critical things to consider. However, because you have attended this webinar, let me give a generic answer to this. The critical things to consider are, at any given point in time, you should know, again, I repeat, at any given point in time, you should know what is happening in four areas of your business, which are how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, how much money is supposed to come in, how much money is supposed to go out. Let us imagine you are a salesperson and you're working for an organization and you're selling some product. And the particular product that you are selling, let us imagine it, the cost of that product is $1,000. And when you approach a potential client, the potential client might say, you know what, our budget is just $800. So we can't afford to pay you $1,000. Now, as a salesperson, you have to make a decision whether to say yes or no for that particular deal. In other words, you have to either sell that particular product for $900 or you have to walk away without selling that. The decision that you are going to make is not just a salesperson's decision, it is a finance decision. Let us imagine you are working as a HR manager in a large organization. Now and then, employees might approach you for bonus or for rise in salary or more commission. The decision that you are going to make as a HR person is not just a HR manager's decision, it is going to be a finance decision. If you are working as an admin person, the management might ask, how much stationery do we need for the next 3 months or next 6 months? Because purchasing books and files and paper and pen every single day is more expensive compared to buying it in bulk. So the decision, the number that you are going to give to your management is not just an admin manager's decision, it is a finance decision. If you are a warehouse manager, again the management might ask, for the next financial quarter, how much raw materials do we need? How much inventory do we have? Based on the calculation that you would do and the number that you would be giving to your management, it is not going to be just a warehouse manager's decision, it is going to be a finance decision because it is going to impact the profit of that particular business. Let us imagine you are a retail manager and one of the dress is not being sold for a while and new stock will be arriving soon. You will put a discount on that particular dress, 15%, 20%, 30%. The number that you're going to come up with is not going to be just a retail manager's decision, it is going to be a finance decision. Now, most of you might be thinking, Chinmay, I neither work for anyone nor have got any idea of working for anyone because I want to have my own business or I am having my own business. Why are you sharing about all this? Friends, as a business owner, being a business owner, we pretty much play role of all these people in our business. Let me give you my own example. When I meet my potential client in a networking event or in a seminar, I am selling my product and service. I have to either make a decision right there whether to say yes to an offer that I would have given them, or I would probably ask them to give me some more time to come back and give them a better quote. Now, as a HR person in my business, fortunately, I learned to treat myself as an employee. Even though I don't have full time staff working for me, I have got a lot of subcontractors. I need to pay them. So I am also playing a role of a HR manager. Same with an admin person and purchasing. I have to go to office works. I have to purchase some kind of equipment. Even the headset that I'm using now was something that I purchased 2 days back because the old one was not really had some technical issue. So I had to make some decisions and I have to negotiate. This morning I got a happy news from Homesglen, and they said they now want to engage me on a regular basis every 2 months to conduct one full day program. And this negotiation has been happening for the last 8 to 10 months. The point I'm trying to make here is the critical things that you have to consider here is every time you make a decision, please make sure you know how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, how much money is supposed to come in, and how much money is supposed to go out. Philip, thank you for your message. I saw your message, but intentionally I didn't address that particular message because in the very next slide, your question will be answered. Now, to know at any given point in time what is happening and how to track it, there is a tool that I have prepared, which I use it in my business. It's a simple Excel tool. This is the article that I wrote for Smart Connect Forum. If you haven't read it, please read it. If you're not interested, then I would highly recommend you to download this particular Excel tool. It has got all the instruction, self-explanatory. You can read it and you can track it. The intention behind that is to make sure you know or you track what is happening in your business whenever you make a decision as an salesperson or as a HR person or as an admin person or as a retail person within your business. Before I forget, let me send you the particular link through this message box. That was for the article. And the next one that I will be sending is for the tool that you can download. It's an Excel tool. Do we have any question at this time? Is everything clear? I'm happy to take a few questions. Yes, no, maybe. Or if you want some time to copy that particular link, let me know. Philip says thanks. You're most welcome, Philip. The Excel tool, as I mentioned before, it is self-explanatory. But in case if you have got any question, feel free to send me an email or give me a call. I'll be sharing my details at the end of the presentation, and we can keep in touch. All clear? Good to know. Good to know. Rachel says, is this webinar recorded? Yes, this will be recorded and it will be made available for you to view by tomorrow, if I'm not wrong. I'm pretty sure it will be made available within 24 hours. That is what Brenda told me. So Rachel, definitely you can watch it. So let me quickly summarize what we have learned so far. The first part was why understand numbers. Friends, from my experience, many a time, the first step, which is the bookkeeping step itself, is an issue with many businesses. Either the business owner is not tracking all the financial transaction, or they are overcomplicating by mixing their personal finance and their business finance and family finance into one. So I would highly recommend you to have different account or different bank account, and at the same time make sure that you track the four financial transaction every single time it happens and maintain an Excel sheet. Let me tell you how I work, or how what is that I do in my business. I have my personal account with Commonwealth. I have my business account with NAB. I don't mix it at all. The next thing is I have got an app. It's an app by ATO, Australian Tax Office, where I can, whenever money goes out as an expense, I make sure I take a photo of that particular thing and I track it. Some of you might be thinking those kind of tools are available even on Zero and other accounting software. Now it's absolutely left to you. Please make sure you know how to use the tool. And again, the intention is to record the financial transaction that happens in your business. Once that is done and it is sent to your accountant and they use their expertise to reduce the tax liability, you should know what kind of question you should be asking your accountant. An accountant should be like a navigator in a race car. What is the role of a navigator? The navigator will pretty much will be telling the driver, which will be you in your business, we are supposed to take a left in the next 2 minutes. We are supposed to take a right in the next 5 minutes. But unfortunately, because we don't ask right question to our accountants, the accountant is pretty much sitting at the back seat of the car and telling us, you should have done this 6 months back. It is so surprising that even after the financial year has started, I know many businesses they haven't filed or they haven't done the consolidated all their financials. And pretty much I ask this question: if you don't have an updated scoreboard, the ball that you're pretty busy kicking and running all over the ground, how do you know whether you're winning or losing? Again, friends, I'm not here to scare you, or I'm not here to say that you're not doing certain things in a smart way. I'm just trying to create that awareness and try to get rid of the ignorance that people have around the subject finance. And of course, the next step after that is to make sure every time you are selling your product or service, every time you do that, make sure it is bringing in profit. And I hope that will be done by gathering as much facts as possible. Finance is the root of how business makes money. The next one, as I told you, I don't know what exactly needs to be done in your business, but one of the things that I can safely say is please do not make financial decision just based on assumption. Don and Philip, you're asking me for that app. I thought of answering it later. Yes, I'll answer it now itself. Uh, it is an app by ATO, which is sitting on my smartphone. As I'm talking, I'm looking at that particular app. Give me few seconds. Let me try to find the name for that app. It is just called ATO. If I'm not wrong, it is called My Deduction. Let me. Oh, the app itself is called Australian Taxation Office. Philip and Don will do one thing. If you are not able to find it on your smartphone, then I will be sharing my contact details. You can either message me and I'll send you the link for this particular app. And again, this is an app for a small business owner. Whatever is entered on this app would be recorded just for our records. So it will not be sent to ATO. So you don't have to worry about uh, not sharing things that you don't want to share with your with the ATO. Okay. Now, the third part that we discussed was the critical things, the four critical things on top of which you should know what's happening so that you know the pulse of your business, which is money coming in, money going out, money supposed to come in, and money supposed to go out. Philip has shared a link. I think it might be the one. We'll check. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer it now. We have got 5 more minutes and we'll be done soon. Looks like everything is fine. Good to know. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending the webinar. The webinar will be recorded and it will be made available on Smart Connect forum. The website is ssba.net.au. I would highly recommend you to visit the website. There are plenty of very informative articles written by experts. You have articles on networking, you have got articles on sales, on marketing, on customer service, leadership, and for some reason, even they have included me as an expert on that particular website. Uh, and off late, I have started writing articles for them as well. Please let us keep in touch. Connect with me if you are not connected on LinkedIn. If you type in my name, Chinmay Ananda, you should be able to find me. All good. Thank you so much once again for participating, for attending, and responding to my question. I really look forward to catching up with you next month. And meanwhile, if you have got any question, anything, please drop me an email and I'm happy to send you the link of that particular app. I'll be here for the next 3 minutes, and as soon as it hits 2 p.m., I will stop the broadcast. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please ask. Thank you. Thank you, Philip. Much appreciate your comment, Don. Thank you. And for few attendees who joined the webinar a bit late, if you have missed a certain part of the webinar, as I mentioned before, it will be recorded and it will be made available for you to watch it at your own pace. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, everybody, for your kind comment. I look forward to seeing you next month. All good. So I'll be stopping the broadcast in the next few seconds. Thank you once again, everyone. This will be video recorded and it will be made available. Please visit Smart Connect website on ssba.net.au. Let's keep in touch. Until then, keep warm, keep smiling. Take care. Bye.